Oh no, things are getting far too ballistic for the likes of the Ginyus. Hey folks, MasakoX here. Now, last year's April Fool What If was something that really struck a chord with you fine folks out there. For years, people wanted to see more with the likes of the Ginyu Force. And despite their brief stint within the Freeza saga, their presence as well as their power was something majestic to behold. Not to mention the sheer wonder of their dance moves and the ability to silence even their terrifying boss. But come on, you know Frieza likes it really. Supposing a timeline existed where Goku gave them the chance to survive and continue their choreography ways on Earth. It turns out they are indeed more useful, even if you could consider them a little bit too flamboyant for most traditional Dragon Team members. In the last part, the Ginyu Force were at their peak. The likes of Guldo had found a newly minted place within their ranks. They brought in Android 16 as a new member to bring their total to 6. What also didn't happen was Hercule taking credit for Cell's passing, and that meant that Vidal's stance with Gohan was a little different. But when the Ginyu stepped in, those two young ones ended up becoming quite endeared to them, almost being like honorary members. And then they were endeared to each other. With Ginyu's tutelage, the Great Saiyan duo became a class act amongst the city folk, and the Ginyu Force too got a spot of the limelight, and not just from their well-established dance studio and techniques. They even decided, with Vidal's cajoling, to enter the latest World Martial Arts tournament as well. But this turned out to be a very foreboding lapse in judgment. Burter and Recoome were taken by Deborah to replace Popovich and Yamu as the underlings of Barbady. The Ginyu Force is at risk of being torn apart. Will they survive? Well, let's resume. The tournament was getting closer and closer, just a couple of hours away before the preliminaries were meant to begin. Everybody was excited to be getting back to their roots, fighting in the very thing that brought most of them together in the first place all those years ago. But the sudden disappearance of Burter and Recoome at the last minute felt odd. It didn't seem right. Why would they miss something like this? They had been going on about it for months in anticipation, since Vidal had convinced them all to participate. Recoome, in fact, had even come up with some special dance moves to be used especially for this occasion. As a result, Captain Ginyu started to worry a little bit. He didn't like the thought of going in without two of his men. They have never disappeared for so long without any prior notice. They would tell me where they were. You don't think they've gotten stage fright, do you? Now this was a very big deal with the group stage fright. It led to very bad things happening in the past, and this thought chilled Ginyu to the bone. Gohan, having spent time with the group, could see this coming, and immediately tried to calm the situation in his soothing tone. Well, don't worry, Captain. There has to be a good reason for why they're gone. Maybe they were helping someone in need and they're in a spot without proper phone reception? That's very true. Burter does usually leave his phone on silent. And after all, I don't think there's anything on Earth that could harm them. Really? Guldo shrugged, him not at all concerned as to his friend's whereabouts. Maybe they're just training. They don't want to spoil us with some new tricks they cooked up. Well, Raccoon had something big, I know that. But maybe there's more. Jeice seemed a little bit hurt. Well, I don't know. It's not like them to up sticks like this. The captain's right. Just the two of them? Burter would never keep secrets from his best mate. Yeah, Guldo said. He'd never keep secrets from me. Jeice gave him a scowl. They didn't have a lot of time to ponder over this, as the whole group had to get to the tournament grounds with the countdown to entering fast approaching. While there, they met up with the rest of the Z fighters. They were also relieved to see that, after all of that worrying, it proved to have been absolutely pointless because, sure enough, they saw Recoome and Burter. They were there on time. They were also there waiting to get in line for the punching bag test. But, despite them being right in front of them, it wasn't quite the same feeling they had. They looked odd. Ginyu tried to ease the tension, keen to bring things back to normal, in case it were that dreaded stage fright. But there you are, you rascals! Thought you could slip away. What's with those tattoos? Trying out a new look for the cameras, I see.
Oh, that. Don't worry about these, boss.
Burter looked at Recoome.
We just had a special training session. We will show you later.
Yes, Recoome laughed. Later. Guldo clapped his hands together. You see, I told you. They were just rehearsing. Honestly, I don't know why you guys worried so much. Vegeta, though, didn't like the sound of this. Just what were they up to now? Usually, their antics would lead to something frightfully embarrassing. But Vegeta chose to ignore them for the moment. If those idiots got into any trouble thanks to their tomfoolery, that really wasn't his problem. At least for now. He had his own plans for this tournament, and that was to get his way to Kakarot and beat him in front of a paying audience. The elimination started not long after that, and they all met up. To his great pleasure, the prince was indeed paired with Goku, while Raccoone's first fight was against Krillin. With Krillin's history with the Force, he felt quite pleased with this first matchup. It wasn't going to be easy, sure, a very vigorous opening round against Recoome, he thought. But Krillin walked up to his friend, not worried, and waved at him politely. Oh, hey Recoome, old buddy! Hope we're gonna have a great fight! Let's give the crowd something cool to watch! Recoome will break your spine. Krillin blinked. Did he hear that right? Oh yes, that was Raccoone's shtick. He liked to talk like a wrestler. He was probably getting into character. Yeah, that's right. Haven't heard that in a while. You wanted to bring back some of your old lines, did ya? But Recoome just laughed, making Krillin uneasy. That wasn't part of his old routine. Oh well, not much time to wonder about this because the announcer was introducing them both to the crowd. And the fight started. And Krillin quickly realized that his friend was not pulling any punches or kicks. It was almost like they'd been transported back to Namek, like they'd never met, and the last 10 years or so never happened. Recoome was ruthless. Also, he seemed to be slightly stronger than what could be sensed. Something strange was going on here, and Krillin didn't like it. He felt like he was being used as an example. Or at least Recoome was less bothered about hurting him. Whichever it was, he didn't like it. The fight was pretty intense, making the spectators soon realize that, for Recoome, this wasn't a friendly competition. Really quickly, he started to dominate over Krillin. Then the crowd weren't sure what to do. Were they supposed to cheer this apparent beatdown or not? Krillin was barely able to get out of his way, taking very forceful strikes. Sure, they had trained together from time to time, but never like this before, or at least never since Namek, since they redeemed themselves, had Recoome been so savage. Krillin couldn't explain this. It really angered 18, seeing her husband being pummeled this much. I mean, only she got to do that. But what really got to her was that Recoome seemed completely unfazed by the fact that he could audibly hear that he had broken a few of Krillin's bones, much to the shock of the crowd. Yup, this definitely wasn't something to be clamoring for. The announcer was then unsure whether to call off the fight or not. He knew Krillin from past battles and knew he was a tough cookie, but was he this tough? Tough enough? Piccolo, however, wasn't paying much attention to the fight in front of them. He was focused more on two strange individuals who were watching the fight, the purple-skinned one and a red-skinned one. Piccolo turned to 16 and nodded at him whilst looking at these two newcomers. 16 nodded back and promised to keep an eye on them should they react in any suspicious manner. Broken and defeated, Krillin fell to the ground, hoping that the battle would cease. Whatever his friend was doing, surely they would show at least some mercy. But Recoome kept attacking, with this then prompting the announcer to intervene. Sir, that's enough! You've won! If you keep fighting, you will be disqualified! Recoome grinned. Of course, Recoome wouldn't want to get disqualified. The announcer was bemused about this remark, but was glad that Krillin could now be given medical attention without that hulking behemoth wailing on him some more. In fact, The announcer would feel very sorry if whoever actually ended up paired against him in the next round. After the fight, when Krillin had been stretchered off, 18 stomped onto the arena and punched Recoome in the face. Although everyone seemed to see the impact, the big warrior didn't seem to care, though they could definitely see some blood. It hurt, but Recoome didn't retaliate. He just took the punch and smiled.
Recoome thinks you better tend to your little chestnut.
Why, you... But 18 decided that she had made her point. It wasn't worth any more, and instead followed Krillin's stretcher to the medical wing, or at least thinking about going to get him some sensu. She left Marin under Chi-Chi's care until she could ascertain her husband's condition, and then decided right there to fly over to Yajirobe to get some beans. Him skulking around the tournament grounds, not really wanting to watch the actual contest. Meanwhile, Ginyu scolded Recoome. He was horrified at the spectacle. This was not the Ginyu Force way.
Hold it right there, soldier!
He grabbed Raccoon's shoulder before the fighter could walk away.
What is the meaning of this roughhousing? Have you gone mad? You cannot treat our allies like that! This is no longer Namek!
Recoome chuckled.
Recoome would never have thought. Thought what? You better have a damn fine explanation for this!
Raccoon's face got serious. The sick joy on it vanished.
That you could grow so soft, Captain. We have been living too long amongst these earthlings. We are not supposed to live lives so cushy.
Ginyu had heard enough. Clearly, Recoome wasn't talking sense. He wasn't going to be talking sense anytime soon.
You are going to be cleaning the barracks today when we get back. You are very lucky that I am not reporting you to the judges and withdrawing you from the competition myself. You had better not pull this stunt again, or else I might have to consider expulsion from the force.
Guldo looked concerned. That was a serious threat. But Recoome shrugged and walked away. The one worrying thing was the fact that Burter had just disappeared amongst all of this. Ginyu sighed. This just was not his day. The next scheduled fight was between Goku and Vegeta, and the two Saiyans delivered a rather amazing spectacle, putting the pain of Recoome and Krillin's fight mostly out of the crowd's mind. 16 and Piccolo then noted that the two individuals started to get a little nervous about this particular battle, contradicting the general feeling of this battle from everyone else, when the two Saiyans especially started to come to blows. They started off rather slowly, in their base forms, but once they started to transform, it was starting to get clear that this encounter would be something else entirely. Some people started to whisper about the Golden Warriors that had been knocking around since the Cell Games. Did these two know them? Or perhaps they were them? Bulma and Chi-Chi weren't too thrilled about this though. The announcer had a big issue in determining whether or not these two were still in the arena. Technically, they were hovering above it, but still within the borders. There was nothing he could recall about that in the rulebook, so for now, since the crowd just so happened to be enjoying this, he chose not to call this battle off. This was sort of like the Cell Games, he thought. Yeah, this must be a bunch of tricks. Still, unlike Raccoone's brutal encounter with Krillin, it was clear to everyone that this was a fair and friendly encounter. Thank goodness for that. Not that Goku and Vegeta were going easy on one another though. On the contrary, this felt more like a very passionate sparring match rather than anything else. Once they both turned Super Saiyan 2 though, the two suspicious beings then tried to halt them directly. From being worried, they were now looking terrified at seeing this power on display. 16 pointed, and Piccolo saw. "Stop! You have to stop!" shouted the shorter one, seemingly losing all his cool. Vegeta was pretty irritated by this behavior, and initially ignored the two. But once they got in between him and Goku, entering the arena, he attacked them, thinking that they were hostile, or at least sore losers who wanted to get in their way.
Vegeta, stop! I don't think they mean us harm,
said Piccolo. And after getting hit a few times, both Kibito and Shin had to explain themselves to the duo, realizing they had no time to explain. They had to tell them right now why they were there. They told them about being Kais, also explaining the weird M tattoos on the foreheads of Recoome and Burter, but most importantly, they explained to them about Barbary, right then and there. Nothing about that when they were flying. "I think your battle might be aiding your enemy. You might have produced a lot of energy just now. Hopefully not enough to awaken Majin Buu." Goku and Vegeta looked confused at this. how was their energy being gathered? They didn't feel like they were being drained. However, Goku was actually more concerned about his friends. "Where are Recoome and Burter?" Goku shouted to the group, but nobody knew. It really seemed odd that their old allies had gotten away, and when they could lock onto their energy, it turned out that Burter was flying away in a pretty swift manner. He was hundreds of miles away. Then Gohan, Goku, Vegeta, Videl, Guldo, Jeice, Ginyu and Piccolo, alongside Shin and Kibito, decided to follow them to the wizard's ship. They split up in order to find the ship in faster time. 16 and Piccolo were the first to do so, but they are approached by Deborah, who then turn them into stone quite quickly. The rest of the group then arrives slightly too late to help them, and all they can do is lament their loss and hope that they can fix them. Shin then notes that in order to turn them back to normal, they need to defeat Deborah. Then, just like in the original, Pui Pui and Yakon get defeated by both Goku and Vegeta. Ginyu, Guldo and Jeice are growing restless though. Gohan then decides that he wants to prove himself against not only his father, but Deborah and the Ginyu Force, and the two start to fight. Meanwhile, Barbary is scouting for potential candidates for mind control amongst this bunch of fighters. Since they just rocked up to his door, it'd be a shame not to. They seemed pretty strong, stronger in fact than even those two recent recruits, and they were not bad. This Vegeta fellow over there would be promising, but he tended to keep his evil side well locked. It'd be tricky. But this, ooh, that could be interesting. While trying to calm Guldo and Jeice, Captain Ginyu felt a weird feeling. He felt like he was being attacked by an invisible foe. He tried to fight it off as best he could, but then he heard a strange voice in his head.
Well, 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 what have we got here? You got pretty comfy here on Earth, Captain.
It's none of your business, Raccoon. Unhand my men, or you will need to face
To think that you were once conquering planets, being an elite commander of a galactic force. You can be that again, you know, if you just listen to me.
I left that behind me. I am happy here.
Ginyu felt weird, like his head was starting to spin.
Deep inside, Captain, you hate it here. You know that those people should tremble under your boot, that you should bring conquest to the galaxy. I can feel it. It's still in your heart. Freeza would be so ashamed of you if he were to see you right now.
Stop it!
Freeza might be no more but you. You are made for far greater things.
Ginyu yelled loudly, getting everybody's attention.
Captain, are you okay?
Jason seemed very concerned about that sudden outburst. Ginyu stood there, regaining his balance and slowly giggling.
Jeice, my boy,
Guldo squeaked, hiding behind his red friend.
I haven't felt better in years.
And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. So what do you folks think? Will Margin Ginyu bring forth the old Ginyu Force? Is it too late for Guldo and Jeice to save their boss? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!